So let's say we want to capture from about here to there, right? How do we cut this? How do we edit the frames and remove some and then keep some, right? So there's a couple of ways to work with this. First of all, since we've spent some time getting to this point, I'm going to store this so I have a quick way back in case I need to start again, but I don't want it to start all over from the very beginning. I don't want to go import this anymore if I can avoid it. So I'm going to go here to the save or store option for the animation menu and store to disk. That takes very little time if you have an SSD drive. It's almost as fast as storing it to memory. And so now let's go and eliminate some frames we don't want. At the very end, after the lightning strike, we have maybe this one here would be the last one we want. So let's go scrub through the right side until we see the box that's highlighted. Here's the lightning sequence. There's the highlighted one. So that's our current frame. And yeah, let's say we want to keep this, but from here on we want to delete that. So what we'll do is we'll show from here. Let's go set the in point or in marker, and then we can go to another one all the way at the very end, like this one here, and make the out marker. That's this one here. So now we have the whole range. There's other ways to select it, but that's certainly a convenient way, given that we have quite a range of frames to select. And then you simply right click and you get the frame editing menu. You can also see that from the animation menu there somewhere, frame frames there. That's the frames menu, right? So you have options there. Right click that timeline and you can see the commands relative to single frames, but here there's a group of commands relative to a sequence or a block, right? So you can delete the block if you don't want that anymore. Now you could also cut it and then paste it in front if you wanted to reverse the sequence of these, right? There's a couple of, this was just a whole sequence, a reverse frame sequence, but here we're going to just delete the block. And so that selection of frames is going to go bye-bye. And that would be a good point to store it again, because you see the moment it takes a few seconds, you don't want to do this again. So what I recommend is as soon as this is done, like this here, store it again. And if you absolutely store it to disk, and if you're absolutely confident that you don't need this one anymore, do this, and it's gone. So now it's stored on disk, so it doesn't take much RAM to hold it. What you'll want to do is, this is a stored copy. You can do a couple of things with this. We're not done yet, though. We have a few more frames at the beginning that we want to get rid of, right? This one we want to keep, this one too. Or maybe we'll actually stop it and just start with this one. But it's good to have an intro frame or two. So I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to keep this one and start deleting from here. So that will be the out marker again, and then we'll go all the way to the very beginning and actually scroll through this where the first frame is. Make that the in marker. Double check that the range ends by the beginning of the lightning. There it is. And so again, we right click, and we have a delete block. So again, it's deleting all of these other frames that are preceding, and the frames that we are seeing are the ones that remain. There's quite a number of frames here, and this is not optimized to be blazingly fast. It's a functionality focus, and it's great to have it, right? I mean, it's great you don't have to switch it over to another video editor if you do some quick frame editings like these. All right, so that's another one done, and of course at that point we really should save this to disk or store it. You could also save it actually under a different name here under save. And that will allow you to recover it more easily, knowing where you saved it, if you know where you saved it, right? I mean, this one too, the store goes automatically into the backend, what's it called, the temp directory, the Howler temp directory. So that's automatically named with some sort of a frame number and temporary something name, and you can easily store them on disk that way, multiples. All right, so we have a sequence of images with this lightning strike. What I want to do eventually is to build some sort of a landscape from that. Let's say, for instance, this one. Right, so I'm going to store just this one frame. There it is. And maybe also another one, like one of those. There you go. So let's take a look at this one as an elevation map. store this. And so if we don't do any changes, the bright stuff is going to be high elevation, the dark stuff is going to be low elevation. So there's going to be a couple of poles or peaks everywhere you see a light, a street light, or some reflections. But then there's also this lightning bolt that's going to be fairly high elevation. The rest around it is darkness, so relatively low. I'm going to go and just straight in the filter and transform Papier. Right, so that one takes it into the renderer, and we are looking at water by default. So some of the spikes we see here, as expected, are showing, but the lightning bolt is not so visible. We need to lower the water or raise the terrain. Actually, we don't touch the elevation of the water, we touch the elevation of the terrain. So we can move it here, we can move the terrain up and down, and you can see how the landscape disappears. If we want, we can also disable the water altogether. So simply expand a little bit more, show more options in the interface, and then you can see here water plane. You get to choose the type of waves. You can also change the height of it, like the frequency and the height of the water. But if we don't want to see the water, all we need to do simply is to disable it right there, none. Right. So then we only have the landscape. Okay, and that's basically it. Here we can also change a little bit more on the vertical scaling, and really that's the beauty of it, is that that's what that looks like now. The lightning bolt, let's go find the lightning bolt. So let's go look down and then move the camera up a little bit, and we will see the lightning bolt right there somewhere. Right, that's it right there. Let's go flatten it a little bit. There it is, you can see it. That's the lightning bolt. Okay, and now this is a quick, fast render. Let's do the better quality, and that looks a little bit more solid. But we of course, we can also do something like some extra smoothing. Let's disable the anti-aliasing just temporarily, and add some extra pre-filtering, so that will kind of smooth it and get us less of the jagged little noise details. We still have quite a bit here, and if we do the anti-aliasing or without the smoothing, it might look different. Maybe you like that very crisp look and blocky appearance like this. Right? So here is the challenge, right? What I'm getting at is that we're going to do some experiments like these where we see a rendered image and you have to guess the original. What is the original map? Guess the map. Right? So for example, here, if I'm adding some terrain texture, maybe some sci-fi textures, something like this. And maybe I'm taking the sunlight a little bit farther away so it's not too overloading it on the brightness side. Maybe I change the shadow a little bit. There you go. Got some of these poles there. Cast some shadow, and there it is. Can you guess the map? Yeah, it's funny. It's actually that lightning bolt, and I'll give it a clue. What I'm going to do is actually use the lightning bolt also as a background image. So this image right here, I'm going to go and store that. Just store it like this, and then I'm going to put that into the brush. So here we can use as brush. There you go. So now I have it in a custom brush, and I can resample it if I want to make it a little bit more wide or high, or different aspect ratio. Because right now it's HD. What's that? 12 to 9, 11 to something, I forget. But I want to do it more like perhaps not constrained, maybe like 800, 600, something like that, a little bit more wide. And then that way, in the brush, if I store this brush, store and manage a copy, I still have that image, but it's really now sideways, much wider, and that'll be more suitable for a non-distorted use in the skies of the renderer. Now I may want to make it seamless, so the left edge is not suddenly cutting into the right edge, but rather blending and transitioning to that. So I have a make seamless option here somewhere. There it is. We got that in the image menu too. This one is in the brush. And so I'm going to go X. I'm going to overlay the X, but I don't want to lose that lighting. I want to make sure the lighting is visible. I don't care about the top-down to be seamless because we are not going to look to the top or see the bottom, the horizon. It's partly hidden by the mountains, the